stories are always wonderful, important things. There's a whole community on here that loves books and stories. Stories tell us so many different things. We read them for enjoyment, we read them to grow, we read them to understand more about the world. There is so much in a story. Some really important stories we use again and again because they just lend themselves to retelling things, giving a new perspective on things, like Shakespeare and fairy tales. The story I'm going to tell you tonight on this Christmas Eve is a story that is a classic, a Christmas story that I love the message of and always will, and like others, it lends itself perfectly to things that are currently happening. If you're just scrolling through, I ask you to please click the link in this description that takes you to a live video. That's the real story here. So see if you can spot the twist. I'd like to say this was a cozy tale. I'd like to say this was a heartwarming tale. But in truth, it is a dark and terrifying tale. This story is based on Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. Well, it is Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, but like I said, with a twist. Ebenezer Stam was in the business of government with his business partner, Jacob Lammy. On this Christmas Eve, Jacob Lammy was not in the office. Ebenezer was in there alone. Hard and sharp as a flint from which no steel had ever struck generous fire, secret and self-contained and solitary as an oyster. He carried his own low temperature always about him. He iced his office in the dog days and didn't thaw it 1 degree at Christmas. There was a knock upon the office door. With no muscles twitching in his face, Ebenezer granted that the visitor should enter. It was a lower member of the business, Mr. Bob Cratchit, clutching a letter. "If you please, Mr. Starmer," he said, coming before the great desk. "I had a letter that I was supposed to give to Mr. Lammy, but he would never see it. He wouldn't open it. I beg that you read it, sir. Please, I beg that you read it." Without lifting his head from his work, Ebenezer demanded if Mr. Cratchit had gone through the right process of passing him the letter, that he had no appointments today and he would have to decline. "I was hopeful, sir, that you might read it. This time of year is a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time, the only time I know in the long calendar year where men and women seem by one to consent to open their shut-up hearts freely and to think of people below them as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. Therefore, I please beg that you read this letter and read it now and act upon it." Without looking up, Ebenezer Starmer demanded that he just place it on the desk and he may or may not see to it, and with that dismissed Mr. Cratchit from his office. It was a piercing, biting cold that Ebenezer Starmer returned home in. Not being a man of fanciful thought, he couldn't quite understand why when he glanced at his knocker, without immediately being able to comprehend how or why, he saw not a knocker, but the face of his business partner, Jacob Lammy. As he stared fixedly at this phenomenon, it was a knocker again. To say he was not startled would be untrue. He did pause a moment to look about him, and then with a cry of humbug, he opened and shut the door to the world. Later that evening, the fire dying, the embers only remaining, terrible noises seemed to come through the house. Ebenezer, still slightly shaken by the knocker incident, began to feel uneasy. There was a clanking noise deep down below, as if some person were dragging a heavy chain over the casks in some wine merchant's cellar. Starmer remembered having heard ghosts in haunted houses were described as dragging chains. The door flew open. Ebenezer braced himself After his experience with the knocker, he fully expected to see his business partner, Jacob Lammy, in some ghostly form. But instead he saw... "Margaret Thatcher?" said Ebenezer Stam in surprise. A predecessor of the government business. "I have come with a warning." She sat down in her iron chains. "You ignore the plight of those in need, as did I in my time before you. You do not listen to the people. How come you to be here? This is not possible." "Possible or not, you will be visited by 3 spirits before the night is done. Take heed. You have a chance that I did not." Ebenezer stared at all the iron she was wearing. "Why do you wear these chains?" "These are the chains I forged in life and now must carry through death. You wear such a chain yourself, as you continue to ignore those voices, the ones calling for your help." "But we are nothing alike," stammered Ebenezer. "Are we not?" she replied. "During my time in 1981, I struggled with the same thing you are now, a hunger strike in the prison. I claimed that crime is a crime is a crime, and not a question of political status. Bobby Sands and 9 other hunger strikers were buried in 1981. My legacy is murder. We changed the prison's wall anyway, allowing more visits and for them to associate freely." Ebenezer shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "You will be visited, as I said. Be prepared." And with that, she disappeared. As the clock struck, Ebenezer was visited by the first ghost. "I'm the ghost of Christmas past. Take my hand. We have much to see." They travelled back in time. "Here," said the ghost. "December 2001. A happier time for you. A more successful time. Do you remember Lindis Percy?" Ebenezer nodded. "The Lord Justice Kennedy and Mrs. Justice Hallett had just quashed her conviction by the Norfolk District Council for disorderly behaviour likely to cause harassment. And you told the court that they'd failed to address the issue of peaceful protest in a free democratic society. Instead, the court had been focusing on appeasing the offended nation and protecting their sensitivities. This was a good time for you. You felt proud." "But what has the past to do with anything? I don't understand," said Ebenezer. "Let me take you further. We have much to see." They travelled back to the years of 1909. And they saw Marion Wallace Dunlop imprisoned for a message on the wall of the House of Commons, classed as a 2nd Division prisoner. They saw her in her cell, protesting by hunger strike, demanding to be placed in 1st Division as a political prisoner. She was released. But in 1910, Mary Clark, another suffragette, was not released. Her hunger strike continued. Eventually, she was released due to weakness on the 23rd of December, but she died soon after. "This is very upsetting, but I don't understand what it has to do with me," said Ebenezer. "Besides, in our prisons with hunger strikes, we no longer use this practice of force feeding." "Damage done is damage done. The past is the past, and we must learn from it. It is time for me to go. The bell will strike." And with that, the ghost of Christmas past faded away. The bell struck, and the second ghost appeared. "Come in," exclaimed the ghost. "Come in and know me better, man." Starmer entered timidly and hung his head before this spirit. "I am the ghost of Christmas present," said the spirit. "Look upon me. Touch my robe and we shall travel." Ebenezer touched his robe and they disappeared and came in front of the house of Bob Cratchit. "I recognise him," said Ebenezer. "Yes, this is one of your employees. You saw him earlier today. He required you read a letter." "Why is there no joy and laughter here? This is Christmas Eve. Why are they not celebrating?" Ghost of Christmas Present looked gravely. His daughter is one of the 8 activists on hunger strike. It has been 52 days.
I see why, as a father, that must be distressing. But that is her choice, and she has committed a crime. And has she committed a crime? Asked the Ghost of Christmas Present. These 8 prisoners and many others are on remand. They are not convicted. They have spent more than a year in prison before their trials take place. What is the UK's usual pre-trial detention limit? Ebekirza swallowed and answered, 6 months. Then maybe she is feeling powerless and has no other option to get people to listen to her. What does she want? Asked Ebekirza.
The same rights as many. An immediate bail. The right to a fair trial. The de-prescription of Palestine Action that has been accusing the UK government of complicity in Israeli war crimes. The end of the censorship in prisons, holding back post and calls and books. And the urge that all, albeit Israeli defence firms, sites close. That is a lot of demands, said Ebekirza. Well, usually these things start by meeting the families and sitting together to talk about these things. That's how negotiations work. My time is drawing to a close, said the Ghost of Christmas Present. You have one more who is coming. And with that, he disappeared. The next ghost is the ghost of Christmas future. No one really knows what the future will look like. On this trajectory, maybe Ebekirza will see his name recorded in history as someone who raised no outcry to genocide, but made laws to prescribe peaceful direct action groups as terrorists, and then kept quiet when they started to protest. Maybe we'll see a doorway. It's raining, and someone comes out with a clipboard, an apologetic look, and stands to address the people. 50 years on, they apologise for the mistreatment of the prisoners. Those on remand, awaiting trial and treated like hardened terrorist criminals, when their goal was to stop a greater crime and save the lives of others. Some stories end with everything tied up neatly, with hope and a happy ending. Other stories leave things open. This is one of those stories. Maybe Ebekirza awakes on Christmas morning, I hope with a lighter heart, a feeling of change. Maybe he speaks to his business partner, Jacob Lammy. Maybe they have the ability to put down their pride, to not worry about losing face, to not think that this is about winning because it's not a game. It's about human lives. The whole sorry mess is all about human lives. When you have such conviction in your truth and justice that you put your life on the line, and the only way to be heard is to starve yourself, I think there is something important to be said. And the very least you could do is listen. There are no ghosts giving truth that slippery politicians can wriggle away from. We must be the ones who learn from the past, save the lives and liberty of those in the present, both in Gaza and in the UK, and protect the future. The link in the description I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Please watch it. It is a live recording of Palestine Action hunger strikers family members having a press conference. Please listen to Francesca Nadine. She explains the reality of what led to this, which has barely had any press coverage. Start at 19 minutes 13 seconds. I made this video in the hope of doing something, My thoughts and prayers are with these brave, courageous people. Amu Gib, Hiba Marisi, Tuta Hotsa, Kamram Ahmed, Louis Ciamorello, Kessa Zura, John Sink, and Uma Khalid. My thoughts and prayers are also with their families. I wish them all hope and strength. I wish the government compassion and ability to think with clarity and humanity. Thank you for listening to this story. If you want to do something to help, there is a link in the description. You can write to your government, demand that they listen to the hunger strikers, demand justice.